Yeah. Holy smokes, I'm no joke out the bullpen. Bringing nothing but heat, leave you hanging like clothespins. He's a beast when he goes in, ice cold frozen. The first round draft pick, #1 chosen. Drop bombs, explosion, self-promotion. And I keep shit moving like a flanker in motion. I'm the #1 spokesman, is my devotion. That I'm dedicated to the rhyme is my own notion. Brown water's the potion, it put hair on your chest. Or you can put one in the air and it'll put you to rest. Sweet dreams, I'm about to fade. I got my mind on my money and I'm dreaming about getting this all paid. Mr. Go-Getter, Mr. Assertive, Mr. Initiative, Mr. Results, man, I'm all about my business, kid. Damn.
Results and business on a suddenly not so casual Send It Saturday. It is Saturday, January 20th, 2024. NFL Divisional Round, the best 4 games you will find in one weekend all year. CIRCA Millions, the show right here live on Sharky Waters Nation. The Shark, the Gun, the Odds Fellow. Guns Picks, I am hyped. What's going on, brother?
I am massively hyped. This is divisional round football that we're going to be seeing today. 4:30, 8 o'clock. Plus, we have college basketball all day. This is heaven. Listen, I got a foot of snow outside. I ain't leaving the house today, baby. I'm going to have 4 TVs on. I'm going to be drinking bevies till I pass out on the couch. It's going to be a beautiful day. I'm ready to get it going. And we got the Odds Fellow with us. What's going on, my man? How you feeling on this beautiful Saturday?
I got the 1994 hat on representing the last time the Dallas Cowboys did anything, and that's what we're celebrating, the morning of the Dallas Cowboys. But we got a packed slate. I'm pumped for it. A couple good official plays. A lot of alignment on the pod, which we always love to see.
Absolutely not waiting around. First game of the round, 4:30 p.m. M&T Bank Stadium, Baltimore, Maryland. Houston Texans on the road. CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Latino opening the broadcast on the home team in the first half official.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you isolate last week alone, and all flowers, all props to CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryans, what this Houston Texans team has been able to do all year. But last week was a bit of an outlier with them getting started quickly. Good for them. They really kind of poured it on early and often. But Houston actually ranked 20th in first quarter scoring. Baltimore was 4th. You peel back the onion a little bit more, and Lamar Jackson and the Harbaugh combo here is the most profitable quarterback and coach combo in history, right? So NFL history, first half betting, they've gone, Lamar alone, 50, 25, and 2 against the spread. I couldn't believe it when I read it. That's almost 67%. And he covers by a field goal per average, in those spots. So they are laying a big number here, but that's also big when you look at the adjusted, and we talk a lot about, kind of the totals, the first half versus full game splits averaging out. And we'll get into the full game with Sharks angle a little bit. This thing is hovering between 9 and 10 points right now, mostly sitting at 9.5. This thing is minus 6.5. They are telling you that track meet style is going to start early and often for the Baltimore Ravens to get Lamar going. So Harbaugh, we talked about Lamar. Harbaugh, a lot of this is overlap, but he's even got some good stats without Lamar in these spots. He comes in with the first half against the spread record of 148, 108, and 3. So that's 59%. Some of the cons here, what I worry about a little bit, 12 days or more of rest. Lamar's 1-6 against the spread. So there's some trends obviously against him in this spot, maybe this type of line functionality. But again, a lot of that's on the full game, right? Not necessarily on the first half and what you're seeing this line do, plus some of those trends. So we need to shake off the rust early. We need Houston to settle back down. Rookie quarterback, rookie coach, on to the next step. Maybe the lights are a little bright and Baltimore is a little colder. So I'm taking the minus 6.5 for the first half. Let's get above a touchdown. Let's cash this thing, and then we'll turn it over to Shark for what he's going to do full game. And we'll banging this on both sides.
Absolutely. Taking a breath here. First official of this weekend, a suddenly not so casual one at that. Houston Texans plus 9.5, 1 unit. Let's talk about it. Houston started the campaign 2-3 straight up. They're 8-3 since, and this is classic momentum you want to buy getting into the playoffs. And this cap, I think more specifically, is centered on ATS functionality. Not line functionality, ATS functionality on the road for Houston. This team was 3-0 ATS on the road inside of the division. They were 2-3 ATS outside of the division. So when I was handicapping this, I was thinking, they're good in the division. They're not good outside of the division. It's got to be Ravens, right? I went into further detail. If you go to how they function outside of the division, they're actually 0-2 as a favorite on the road outside the division. Took a loss at Carolina and the New York Jets as a favorite. As a dog, they are 2-1 ATS with a very impressive outright win in Week 10 at Cincinnati within this division. Only loss in this spot was Week 1 at the Ravens, and I think we can accredit that to the fact that it was the first career start for CJ Stroud, who has gotten progressively better week after week. Let's talk about Baltimore for a second here. Baltimore is 4-2 at home ATS outside of the division. But again, I think the line creation is very, very important here. They're 3-0 ATS on lines -2.5 against Detroit, -2.5 against Miami, and -4.5 against Seattle. Short lines against better teams, they cover the short line, and I think psychologically they turn up more. Against worse quality teams, they are 1-2 ATS. -6.5, 7 against the Rams non-cover, -9.5 against the Colts, outright lost in overtime, only cover in Week 1 against CJ Stroud. And truthfully, when you look at the line the books are putting out here, in Week 1, it was September 10th, Baltimore was -10. And this does apply to second matchup pro football. Baltimore wins the game by 16 points on a -10. Here we come back January 20th. They open it up a 1.5 shorter, 8.5. It's suggesting the game to be around a touchdown. There is upside on the dog here. I don't think they're going to win outright. Crazier things have happened. Lamar Jackson did lose to Ryan Tannehill in the playoffs at home 4 years ago. Love the play. Should be a tight game. Buy it, live it, love it, and dominate it. Guns picks on the total and a player prop under 43.5.
Over 49.5. I want to get to that one in a second here, but like I listen, I looked at the spread, I saw the 9.5, and I remembered in my head, oh yeah, Baltimore versus Tennessee at home, off the bye, and of course them off a bye, 0-4 ATS since 2020. I couldn't get on that one, and then of course, Houston with a rookie quarterback. It's funny because I actually looked up a little bit of a stat on this one. Only 3 rookie quarterbacks have won 2 playoff games. That is Joey Flacco, that is Brock Purdy, and that is Mr. Butt Fumble himself, Mark Sanchez. So I couldn't get by that one. It's a rarity that a rookie could get there. We could see this game going either way on this one. But let's talk about the total here, okay? What does Baltimore do? They're a run-first offense. They average 32 rushing attempts per game, 4.9 yards per carry. Number 1 rushing offense in the league. However, they're going against a Houston team that isn't good against the run. They hold their opponents to 3.5 yards per carry on the ground, which ranks them second in the league against the run. So what's Baltimore going to have to do? They're going to have to rely on their passing game. This is a Houston defense. When you go up against them, they're ranked 23rd in the league against the pass. Baltimore ranked 30th in the league in passing attempts per game, 21st in passing yards per game, and 4th in yards per attempt. So this is a team that basically uses the run. When they close in, they use the pass to get away from the run and try to keep the defense honest. But I think this is going to be a little bit more of a pass-oriented Baltimore team, which makes them a little bit more uncomfortable in this situation. But you look at Houston, terrible on the run. They're 30th in DVOA running the ball, but in the passing game, they're ranked 6th in passing yards per game, 3rd in yards per attempt passing. But they're going against one of the best passing defenses in the league in Baltimore, ranked 5th in opponent passing yards per game, 1st in opponent passing yards per attempt, 5th in opponent passing yards per completion. And they also get to the quarterback very well with an 8.65% sack rate, ranked 2nd in the league. So this is going to be very tough for CJ Stroud to get points on the board and move the football. But Baltimore holds their opponents to 16 points per game as well. That is a very key point on this one. 18 points per game at home, 15 points per game versus non-divisional opponents. They're ranked number 1 against an opponent scoring this season. But you got Houston that has done very well holding opponents as well. They hold their opponents to 21 points per game this season, 19 points per game in the last 4. 22 points per game versus non-divisional opponents. That ranks them in 10th in opponent scoring. So you have 2 teams that are really good at bend, not break type of scenarios defensively. And then you got to look at Baltimore versus the AFC South. They've done exceptionally well. 8.75 points per game held AFC opponents. They played them all. Houston on the other side against the AFC North, they held them to 21.6. This all correlates to the under here, folks. Also, Baltimore 4-1 to the under in playoff games dating back to 2017. Houston 5-1 to the under when the total is between 42 and 44. That's what we're looking at right now at 43.5. And also Baltimore 4-2 to the under when the total is in that same range. Then you got the winds you got to deal with here. It's going to be a very cold game, 27 degrees, 16 mile per hour winds. That's going to really kill the passing game. And like I said, this Baltimore team is going to have to pass the ball versus this Houston defense. Same thing with Houston. They love to pass the ball as well. So I just think both these teams, they play to each other's offensive and defensive strengths. I think it's going to be a rock fight in this one, similar to what we saw in week 1. The total correlates to that. Basically the same total that you deal with from the last game. So give me the under 43.5, 2-unit special. And let's talk about who is going to be catching the ball for Baltimore in mid-range. We're talking about Zay Flowers. I like the over 49.5 for another unit on this one. You look at Houston's passing defense, like I said, 23rd in the league. Flowers has surpassed this mark at 50 or more in 3 out of the last 4 games receiving. And if you actually look last week versus the Houston defense, Cleveland had 4 receivers that surpassed this total of 49.5. And then you got Houston struggles versus mid-range defense. That's kind of their key point there. They're leaking sieve when it comes to those mid-range passes. And that's what, if you look at Jackson, that's what he likes to do. He likes to throw mid. And who does he like to throw to? Zay Flowers. Last time these two teams met, Flowers had 9 receptions, 78 yards in his inaugural appearance in the NFL versus Houston. So I think Zay Flowers is going to be the key component on this one if Baltimore is going to win this game. And I think he's going to get a lot of targets, get a lot of catches, and therefore a lot of yards. Give me the over 49 receiving yards, another 1-unit play.
Yeah, who were those quarterbacks you mentioned that had won 2 playoff games?
Joey Flacco, Brock Purdy last year in 2022, and Mark Sanchez, 2009. Okay, so, remember they made a run to the AFC.
Let me stop you right there. What's the commonality between Flacco, Purdy, and Stroud? Incredible mental focus and professionalism as a rookie. If you guys remember Joe Flacco coming out of Delaware, to use Stuart Scott, RIP's term, he was cool as the other side of the pillow. And so is Brock Purdy, and so is CJ Stroud. So I love these long-term statistics, but I think we have to really analyze who the guys are with specific analysis. I think CJ Stroud turns up here. I don't think he's afraid of the moment.
Also tremendous defenses. All these guys had great defenses, top of the league. So take that into account.
Good point. And the gun on the under, I'm on plus 9.5. And let's dominate. Next play, speaking of great defense, 8:15 p.m., 5:15 p.m. on the West Coast, Santa Clara, California. Packers at Niners. We said it last week. The Packers are fool's gold, and then they fooled us with emphasis. But I think there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to take the first take on this one. I want to get some redemption for last week. I went on record. I said they were going to get blown out. I said everything I could say, and I was so far off. But was I? Dallas lost the game 48-32. Dak Prescott in the first half. Interception at his own 19-yard line, quickly translated to a touchdown. Slightly later on, still first half, pick 6. These are outlierish plays that flip the game script and result immediately that you cannot rely on if you're Green Bay going into San Francisco. In that game, Dallas uncannily outgained them 510 yards to 415. 37 first downs versus 22. You guys realize how difficult it is to lose a game by that margin and have 15 more first downs in the game? We're not taking anything away from Green Bay in that matchup, but we're telling you it's incredibly difficult to repeat that performance. And we said this last week. We'll say it again. Green Bay was great this year on the road in the division. 3-0 plus 48-point differential. Outside of the division, they were 1-5 straight up with a -9-point differential against bottom feeders. Atlanta, Vegas, Denver, Giants, Carolina, and they lost to Pittsburgh. They were also 0-2 in prime time. Monday Night Football, Week 5 at Vegas, 17-13 loss. Week 14 at the Giants, 24-22 loss. Friendly reminder, this is a primetime game. Speaking on San Francisco very briefly, San Francisco is 5-3 ATS at home, 0-2 ATS last 2. So I think you get a mini buy low there. But I think you have to go to their spot-specific analysis as well. Both of their non-covers when Brock Purdy was playing this year at home came against the AFC North. Outright loss to Cincinnati in week 8 by 14 points on the number. Outright loss to Baltimore in week 16 by 14 points on the number. So if they're playing the top teams from the AFC North, they don't play well against every other opponent from the NFC. Hammer time. 30-12 against the Giants, 42-10 against the Cowboys, 27-14 against the Bucks. Last year, before Brock Purdy got hurt in the title game at Philly, he was 2-0 ATS at home in the playoffs. Margin win against Seattle on a very similar line structure, and a win against Dallas. Love this play. Hammer time, Niners. Green Bay, the frauds they are will be exposed tonight. You heard it here first. Guns picks, an alignment play. Talk to me.
Full alignment on this one. You said it best. You look at that box score with the Green Bay and Dallas game is absolutely fraudulent. I'm not going to go into the stats on this one. Shark already hit those. But one of the key components in this one is basically, can you stop the Green Bay passing game, right? You have Jordan Love looking like Aaron Rodgers out there as of late, 263 passing yards per game in the last 9 games. Jordan Love has also got a 21 touchdown to 1 INT ratio in that span. But you actually look at the teams that he played in those last 9 games, as far as passing defense is concerned, he played the Chargers, ranked 27th in the league. The Detroit Lions, ranked 16th in the league. They also give it with Detroit. They give up a ton of yards in yards per game and yards per attempt. They play KC. Okay, you got a good defense there. But then you play the Giants, 13th. Tampa, another team that gives up a lot in the passing game, at 14th in DVOA. Carolina, 17th. Minnesota, 11th. Chicago, 20th. And then they played Dallas last week, and like we said with Dallas, they won the net. They lost the yardage battle in that one by almost 100 yards. Typically, in those cases, you lose the game by double digits. But you look at the pass defense for the San Francisco 49ers, exceptional this year. They're 4th in pass DVOA, 13th in yards per game, 5th in yards per attempt. So this is a better defense that the Green Bay Packers have seen all season. Then you got to look at the San Francisco 49ers. What are they going to do? They're going to move the ball in the passing game. They're ranked 4th in pass DVOA versus the Green Bay defense that's ranked 26th in defensive pass DVOA, 17th in opponent passes yards per attempt. But the key on this one, what hurt Dallas last week, like Shark talked about, take care of the damn football. Do not give them opportunities to score points. There was 3 turnovers in that game that cost them the victory. It was the INT for a touchdown, pick 6. It was the interception that put them in the red zone that turned into another 7. And then, of course, the turnover and downs in their own territory that turned into a touchdown as well. So when you look at San Francisco, if you toss out that one game versus the AFC North, the Baltimore game where they gave up 5 turnovers in that spot, Purdy has only thrown 2 picks in the back half of the season outside of that game. So he is exceptional. He's a game manager, and he takes care of the football. And you always got to consider that if you think San Francisco is going to win this game, they'll win by double digits. You know why? Because 11 out of their 12 victories have been by double digits this season. So I think San Francisco also has a little bit of motivation in this one. You remember what happened last year? This team was banged up. They limped into that Philly game last year. Probably should have been the representative of the NFC to get to the Super Bowl if healthy, but they got hurt. They were banged up. They were on their 3rd string quarterback. They could not get it done. So there is a little bit of a chip on their shoulder with everybody on that team, including Brock Purdy himself. They want to show out here. I think they get it done here. Give me San Francisco minus 9.5, 3-unit play for me.
Absolutely love it. Top stuff. Beers will flow. It will go down in California. Segments tomorrow, Sunday, January 21st, 2024, 3 o'clock Ford Field. Tampa Bay Bucks at Detroit Lions. I'm going to jump off at top play. The over. Not complicated stuff, but beautiful stuff it is. Detroit is 6-2 versus the home over. Detroit is coming off of a playoff under last week against the Rams, 24-23. Egregious. 21-17 in the first half, 6-3 in the second half. Full-scale melt. That game should have gone over by 15 points. A lot of errors in the second half. I think even more specifically, Tampa Bay is 8-1 versus the home under. They played slow down, great ball down in Raymond James Stadium. They also started 0-3 versus the road over. They are 4-2 versus the road over last 6. So they are scoring the ball on the road now. Week 9 at Houston, 39-37. Week 12 at Indy, 27-20. Week 14 at Atlanta, 29-25. And I think a specific corollary here within this division, against the Packers in week 15, 34-20 over. And those teams have a lot of similarities with the Lions. Don't play great defense, explosive quarterback situation, great offensive weapons. And final point on this game, these teams did play in week 6 in Tampa Bay, 20-6 Lions. The line was 45.5. We talk about line functionality and what books are telling us. When they go under at 45.5, 20-6, and the line opens up the same season at 49.5, books are telling you complete, utter reversal in game flow and point expectancy. I have this graded to hit 54 points minimum, and I will throw it to the odds fellow for further comments.
Yeah, one of the biggest jumping off points was what you just mentioned for me, seeing that opening line functionality. I think you mentioned 45.5. I think that thing closed even lower. I saw it at 43.5 in some spots. So we're coming up even more in terms of that spot on that 20-6 result. And in that game, when you think about it and you look at it, I think we are going to see some similar things from a box score standpoint, but I'm hoping and expecting a little bit better performance. Again, now we're indoors. Now that was week 6 in Tampa, Florida. So you not necessarily the elements working against you, but it is a different field environment versus, kind of the crispness of that dome and that turf, right? So 20-6 in week 6. Now that was, really largely driven by Tampa Bay going 2 for 12 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. Baker threw a pick. The Lions didn't turn it over, and despite 380 chunk yards, they only put up those 20 points and then got no help on the Tampa Bay side. But a little bit of what we saw in that matchup, I think, is what you're going to get here. And to me, this is going to lead to more variance than it did, largely in week 6. But that's because of the way these teams play defense. From a DVOA defense standpoint, you're talking about the Detroit Lions, who are the number 1 ranked defense against the run for the season. But in the last 6 weeks of the season, Tampa Bay held that spot. So you're talking about 2 great, outstanding rushing defenses. What's that going to lead to? That's going to lead to teams that want to pass the ball. Passing is going to lead to chunk plays. Chunk plays and passing is going to lead to more variance. The line is telling you what that variance is, how that's going to play out in this go-around. Take it over, go over 50, go over 51 if you need to. I love where Shark's at. Points. This is going to set up nicely for the snooze fest we're going to talk about later in the nightcap. Yeah,
Guns picks 3-way alignment and the side on the Bucks.
Yeah, I love. There's a lot of plays on this one, but I'm gonna break this down in a second. But let's talk about where this Tampa game is. 8-1 ATS, covering by 6.3 points per game, plus 2 point differential on the road. If you look at them in non-conference, same thing, man. They play plus 2 point differential, 9-3 ATS, covering on average 6 points versus non-divisional opponents. Line correlation on here is very key on this one, right? So you see in the 6.5 here. So I broke down Detroit when they're favored 4 points or more this season. 7 times they've been favored 4 points or more. 4-3 ATS in those situations, but 3 of those covers all coming off a loss. Okay, they beat Carolina by 18 after but that was coming off a win. But as we know, with Carolina, the Panthers, one of the worst teams in the NFL, if not the worst team, right? Then they beat the Raiders by 12 as 7-point favorites at home. But that was coming off a Baltimore loss where they got embarrassed on the road, 36-6. Then they played Denver. They beat them by 25, 5.5-point favorites at home. But that was coming off a divisional loss versus the Chicago Bears on the road. Then they go to play New Orleans. By 5, they covered just by 1 point as 4-point favorites. But that was coming off a loss to Green Bay on the road. So this is a different situation, different scenario when you're seeing them with these high numbers. But when you talk about the 3 non-covers with 4 points or more favored, they lost to Seattle 37-1. I'm sorry, 37-31 as 8-point favorites. That was coming off that big-ass win in week 1 in primetime, Thursday Night Football, 21-20 versus KC. Then they go and they beat Chicago 31-26, which was an absolute collapse, nearly lost that game. Actually, it was a collapse on the Chicago Bears side on that one. 8-point favorites in that one. That was coming off a big win on the road versus the Chargers with the last-second field goal, 41-38. Then they go play Green Bay, 29-22. Lost that one to them outright, 8.5-point favorites in that game. That was coming off a close win where they almost blew that game 31-26 versus Chicago Bears. So revenge game is also key on this one, and Tampa loves to keep receipts. They should keep this one here because they lost 20-6 on the road versus Detroit as 3-point dogs in week 5. So this is going to be a revenge spot, which I like to take in these situations. So with all that being said, I mean, you got this team coming off the biggest win of the history of the Detroit Lions. They hadn't won a playoff game since 1992. That's their Super Bowl, baby. Everybody's celebrating the Detroit. There's confetti everywhere. There's parades. They just won a playoff game. Well, guess what? This Tampa team is going to come in here pissed off, and you have the experience factor, especially with Baker. He's got 7 touchdowns, 1 INT as a starting quarterback in the playoffs. This guy is a baller. So with all that being said, I'm going to be taking Tampa here plus 6.5. But let's talk about the prop of all props. I love Baker over on the receiving yards. This is a gift to me, 256.5. Baker has gone over this total four out of the last 5 games. And he played Green Bay, Jacksonville, who's ranked 10th in DVOA, New Orleans, ranked 12th in DVOA passing. And then they played, of course, the sieve of all sieves, the Philadelphia Eagles, 29th in DVOA. Detroit is ranked 16th in pass DVOA, 30th in opponent pass yards per game, and 30th in pass yards per attempt. So this is a defense for the Detroit Lions that gives up passing yards. Also, Detroit defense is number 1 against the run in DVOA, so I expect a lot more passing attempts here from the Tampa Bay side. And Baker averages 33 attempts per game, but he had 36 last week versus the Philly team. I think he's going to be correlated here. He's going to have a lot of passing attempts in this game, especially if you're looking at the boat race of all boat races between these two defenses, because Tampa's defense, passing defense is bad, and so is Detroit's, and you're going to have a lot of points on this one. And, of course, Shark goes, they should have scored over, that you should have hit that over. You're correct, but I had the under. All right. I love that. I love the bad second half. I loved having 9 points. I love collecting a check, cashing that ticket on that one. Thanks to me. We cashed that one, but we're going to be going over on this one. We're going the exact opposite direction. We're going to be spreading units like Pete Davidson spreads legs in Hollywood. We're going to be going Baker over 256 passing yards, 1 unit. We're going to go Tampa plus 6.5. 3 unit, and we're going to go the over 49.5, 2 units on that one. There's 6 units for you, baby.
Absolutely love it. Aside a total, a Pete Davidson reference, and we're talking business and libations on this beautiful Saturday. Sundays are for the sharp, 6:30 p.m. Highmark Stadium, Orchard Park, New York. Kansas City Chiefs at Buffalo Bills. Historical stuff. We'll open the conversation throwing it to Anthony Latino, a.k.a. The Odds Fellow, taking the under 45.5, 1 unit official.
Yeah, it's simple math. You can't have 2 overs in the same day, right? Clearly. So we're going 1 over, 1 under. Let's stay balanced. But no, this is, again, matchup, line functionality. I want to see what these teams are doing. These are not the offensive juggernauts that we got back in January 2022, the infamous 13-second game. How did that thing finish? Kansas City 42, Buffalo 36. The overtime rules changed because of it. That was 78 points on a total of 54. What happens later that year, that same year, October 2022, per the calendar, the next regular season, Buffalo wins 24-20. Again, all these games are in KC that I'm shouting out, so we get a little wrinkle with the Buffalo, but you should have similar weather conditions. 24-20 Buffalo victory at total 55.5, still pretty high expectations. That thing sits at 44. December 2023, earlier this season, little revenge maybe again 2 times for the Buffalo Bills, 20-17. Buffalo wins on a -2. That first game was Buffalo winning by 4 on a -2.5. Shark might get in a little bit of this. Those came in on a total of 49. They scored 37 points. This thing continues to dip down and down and down with where the odds makers are setting this initial line. Obviously, 2 of those 3 were regular season games, but when you look at the matchups here and what we're going to get, I think you're going to get that slow-paced winter atmosphere type of ball game. Kansas City just does not have the same ranked offense that they have in previous years. From a DVOA perspective, I think they're sitting at 8th overall right now, but that's with a lot less explosive plays. I do think they'll be able to exploit the middle of the field with Travis Kelce, but I don't think it's going to lead to the chunk plays and the points that we're used to seeing with them. Buffalo's defense, although banged up, they do still rank 12th, which is better, in the top 50% of the NFL from a DVOA standpoint defensively. And they get a Kansas City offense here that, like I said, is sputtering at times. That Kansas City defense on the other side, when we look at it against the top ranked 3rd DVOA ranked offense per the Buffalo Bills, Kansas City's defense is 7th and largely has been the unit that has carried this team this season. So I'll gladly take it at under 45.5. Really, I would have been happy at anything under that key number of 41, which you see with some totals. So I'll take the extra few points of value because I think you're getting a little bit of that public perception of Mahomes, Allen, big time scoring, and you're not going to get that here. This is going to be smash mouth, cold AFC playoff football.
Yeah, without question. Jumping off my official play in this game, Buffalo Bills -2.5, 1 unit. That is -120 on most books overnight. I'm not sure if that jumps up to 3 now, but let's discuss Buffalo. Buffalo started 3-1 ATS, then proceeded to go 0-6 ATS midseason. As we detailed every single week on this show, they are 6-2 ATS since. And I have written down here, is this the first time ever a Josh Allen Buffalo team is peaking at the right time? And I think the answer is probably yes. It's not necessarily a bad thing in an 18-week calendar to kind of chill in the middle of the year and not put out your best product and energy and then find it late. And people want to talk revenge. I see the chats popping on revenge. Is it revenge? Do the playoffs matter? Does this matter? Well, I'm going to talk revenge because I saw some stuff on Twitter that I disagreed with. And I saw people talking about Patrick Mahomes' revenge game because he lost to Buffalo at home this season. And I said, I don't think so. I think this is a gigantic Buffalo revenge game of 2 brutal playoff losses in Kansas City. AFC Championship game, January 24, 2021. Kansas City hammer down 38-24. And the game that Anthony mentioned, Divisional Round, January 23rd, 2022. 13 seconds left. Buffalo 36-33. Mahomes gets 35, 40 yards for a field goal to send it to overtime and win 42-36. The worst loss of Buffalo, of Josh Allen's career by a mile. Talking on Kansas City for a brief second here. Kansas City is 5-3 ATS on the road this year, which appears to be pretty good. It's fool's gold. 7 non-playoff teams. 1 playoff team in that sample, Green Bay. I'm unimpressed. 20.75 points per game. Kansas City just beat Miami in the frigid cold at Arrowhead. Miami clearly was incredibly uncomfortable playing in that environment. They were also incredibly uncomfortable all year on the road at contenders. Took 3 margin losses in the regular season to Buffalo, Philly, and Baltimore by 26.3 points per game loss. So that's not really that impressive for Kansas City last week. Miami was purely an inferior opponent. And as we mentioned, Buffalo did beat Kansas City in Week 14 on December 10th, 20-17 in Arrowhead. Key point there, Kansas City favored -2.5. Now Buffalo -2.5. This is a strong line for Buffalo. I think Buffalo beats Mahomes in the playoffs for the first time. The first time Mahomes is going on the road in the playoffs in his career. Buffalo, stand the hell up, 6:30 p.m. Highmark Stadium. Let's fucking go. Guns Picks, official collaboration. What's up?
Full-blown alignment here, and I'm telling you, I was like, if Casey's worried about the cold, it's going to be 16 degrees and 10-mile-an-hour winds there. It's going to feel like Florida compared to what they had to deal with last week. But when you talk about the factor in this game, it's going to be the Buffalo run game versus the rush defense for KC, right? KC's rush defense is ranked 27th in DVOA, 4.5 yards per carry they give up to their opponents. That ranks them 23rd in the league. But you got Buffalo's rushing offense, one of the best in the league. They have Josh Allen. They have Cook. They have a great running offense, ranked 5th in yards per game and 8th in rushing yards per attempt. So I think they're going to really pound the rock here in Orchard Park. And of course, you had Buffalo winning the regular season, revenge type of game, I guess, whatever you call it. 20-17 in KC, 2-point road dogs in that one, but the total was 49 in that one. Now you're seeing the total go down to 49.5, and Buffalo now favored 2.5 in this spot. So there's a complete line shift, not only in the spread, but in the total. The line has moved a lot more than it typically does for a road to home switch. Then you got to look at this total, 45.5. So I went and looked at every single total that these teams saw this season and the outcomes. KC was 10-1 to the under when the total was 45 points or more this season. 10-1 to the under. Then you have KC 6-4 to the under at home, 4-1 to the under when the total is between 43 and 45, and 3-0 to the under when they are favored by 2.5 points, which you have in this situation. So every single situational standpoint with the correlation of the spread is telling you to take the under. So the misconception here, public misconception, is Mahomes versus Allen going to be a shootout. Well, I don't think it's going to be a shootout here in Orchard Park. I think the line correlation tells you it's going to be a rock fight, especially with this upgraded defensive standpoint for the KC. And everybody's saying, oh, Buffalo's defense is banged up, but I think a lot of these guys are going to come on, suck it up, and play, especially in this spot, because now you got them in your home stadium. Buffalo Bills, it's your time. Stand the F up, as Shark would say. Buffalo -2.5, 2-unit special, and under 45.5, and that is a 3-unit play, baby.
Yeah, when I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, I was saying this game reminds me of a game that the Bills played at home against the Jets. And that might seem very inaccurate, but I think it's very crucial to the point that Kansas City is running a great defense on the field this season, as were the Jets all year. And the Bills, in a very peak spot in the middle of the season, did hammer the Jets 32-6. And I think the real key point with that was right when they switched coordinators and got rid of Ken Dorsey and went to a much more balanced offense with a much more heavy run game. I think that's the scheme they're going to bring this week. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I think it's going to be a slow-down game, as Gunn said. I think it's going to be an under as well. And I think the key point is they're going to try to keep Mahomes off the field. Time of possession in this game is going to be a huge determinant of who wins the game. So we're on this Buffalo -2.5. We see a lot of guys in the chat on the Chiefs. I would say to you guys, are you Chiefs fans? Do you like Mahomes? Is there a little bias in that brain? We all got bias. Try to eradicate bias in this life, because the books are telling you this is a Bills spot. Don't fade the books. Fade the books, go homeless. A lifestyle. And we love you, Money Channel, my guy. Just giving you a hard time. And that's the show. We're fired the hell up here. And 4 plays for myself. Houston +9.5. San Francisco -9.5 tonight. Lay it down. And Tampa Bay, Detroit over tomorrow afternoon, 49. And Buffalo -2.5. The odds fellow, Baltimore first half -6.5. Tampa Bay, Detroit over. Collaboration play. And Kansas City, Buffalo under 45.5. That is a collaboration with the Gun. The Gun is on Baltimore. Houston under 43.5. Zay Flowers over 49.5. San Francisco collaboration play with the Shark -9.5. Tampa Bay +6.5. Tampa Bay, Detroit 3-way collaboration play. The only one of the broadcasts over 49 or 49.5. 40 minutes in the books. Circa Millions the show. The Shark, the Gun, the Odds Fellow, NFL Divisional Round 2023-2024. It is Saturday. Saturdays are for sending it. Get some beers. Get a workout. Love your life. Let's dominate. Guns picks. Close them out. And let's fucking go.
Man, you guys, you beautiful bastards have been watching this live. You watch it on Twitter. You watch it on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to the Shark and Waters Nation channel and hit the like button if you're watching the content and you love this content. That just helps us grow in the algorithm of all algorithms that YouTube puts out there. But I want to shout out the chat. Bob, the Candy Man in the building. Jerry Q, Money Channel. The Odds Fellow obviously getting in there as well. Jerbaka, Peter Grazia. I don't know if I said that right. Christopher Boucher, Sean Murphy, and all the guys that came in here. Thieves by Law, Justin Wolf. That's why the chat is great. This is what makes the show interactive. This is why we like talking to you guys. You need to get into the chat if you watch this show. But if you enjoy the content, we just like to hit the like button there. So let's cash some tickets. Let's dominate the board. We will see you next Sunday for the AFC NFC Championship show, Circa Million style. Let's dominate. Let's cash tickets. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bye.